Lights, camera, action. Welcome to Hoy Pinoy Ako, your go-to podcast for everything Pinoy. I'm Angel.
I'm Kian.
I'm Miles.
Here at
Hoy Pinoy Ako.
We celebrate what it means to be a Filipino, our culture, our struggles, and our successes.
From tackling social issues and sharing inspiring stories to exploring everyday life in the Philippines, we're here to give you a voice and spark conversation that matters.
Whether you're stuck in traffic, relaxing at home, or just looking for something to vibe with, we got you covered. So sit back, relax, and join us on this exciting journey.
That's right! Your ideas and stories could even be featured in our future episodes.
Ready? Let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome to today's podcast, where we tackle a topic that hit close to home for many Filipinos: financially exploitative relatives. Whether it's a constant barrage of requests for pahiram, subtle guilt-tripping disguised as utang na loob, or outright entitlement to someone else's hard-earned money, this issue has sparked countless debates across dinner tables, social media, and even family reunions. But is this dynamic truly exploitation? Or is it just a misunderstood expression of Filipino family values? Are breadwinners simply fulfilling a cultural obligation? Or are they being unfairly burdened? Today, we're going to deep into this heated discussion. It's going to be a lively exchange of ideas, so buckle up as we explore the thin line between family solidarity and financial abuse. Let's get started. So, what do you guys think about this certain topic?
Well, for me, I firmly believe that financially exploitative relatives in the Philippine context are a byproduct of a cultural norms that need to be accepted and not vilified. The concept of utang na loob or debt of gratitude is deeply ingrained in Filipino culture inside us. Yes, and it emphasizes reciprocal relationships. While it may be appear exploitative, the expectations of financial support often stems from familiar obligations rather than malice. Helping family, even when it becomes excessive, strengthens bonds and ensures mutual support when roles reverse in the future.
I strongly disagree, Kian. While utang na loob is a beautiful cultural value when applied correctly, it is frequently abused. Exploitative relatives manipulate this concept to demand financial assistance without consideration for the giver's circumstances. So this dynamic like leads to economic strain and emotional stress for the individual being like exploited by their relatives. So often trapping them to a cycle of like dependency. So it's not about family bonds. It's like unfair entitlement.
But Miles, family in the Philippines often acts as a safety net, especially in lower income households. If someone is financially stable, they have a moral duty to assist their relatives who likely sacrifices for their success. For example, a breadwinner often succeeds because the family pooled resources to support their education. Returning that favor isn't exploitation, but it is a justice.
Well, I agree that like genuine like exchange is fair, but let's be real. Not every relative supported the person now being exploited. Many people like work hard to achieve success like independently, but yet they are still burdened with constant financial requests from their relatives. So, worse, like if you refuse to them, this often lead to like guilt tripping. So it is very unhealthy system that like rewards dependency and like condemns independence.
Well, your perspective discounts the socioeconomic realities of the Philippines. Do you know that opportunities are limited for many, especially in the rural areas, like here, like some areas that are not really developed. So wealthier relatives have access to education, jobs, or overseas work like OFWs, and their contribution help uplifts the entire families. Besides, Filipino like values like bayanihan, a spirit of communal unity, rejecting the financial requests and undermines the shared sense of responsibility.
So, but at what cost, Kian? Consider the impact of mental health and financial stability that breadwinners or OFW like experience. So, like OFW often like work under extreme stress, yet they are expected to send remittances to fund not just like basic necessities but also like luxuries. Like for example, study shows here that OFW face significant psychological distress due to like unrelenting family demands. So what you said, like that isn't unity, it's exploitation.
Hmm. Well, that's a valid point. But cutting off financial support creates a ripple effect. A struggling family members might resort to desperate measures such as taking on predatory loans, uh, which which can lead to even worse financial hardships. Would it be better to provide some help and prevent that?
Well, it is not it's not an all or nothing scenario, Kian. Like support can be conditional and reasonable. Helping with essential expenses like health or educational is very different from funding a very luxurious lifestyle. So that's why boundaries are very necessary. Like teaching financial literacy to your relatives and encouraging them to be independent are far better long term than like this exploitative system that we are using.
So I guess that you guys are actually truly giving a like both negative and a positive responses about this topic, and I'm quite amazed that you guys have truly have an a call this a knowledge about this topic. And yeah, without further ado, let's continue
Wait,
what you guys doing it.
I have something to add. You mentioned financial literacy and independence. These are great ideals, but they're difficult to achieve in a country where poverty is systemic. Like for many families, pooling resources is the only way to survive, even in middle class household. Like balikbayan relatives are often seen as bridge to stability. Uh, Helping one's family shouldn't be dismissed as exploitation. It's a cultural adaptation to economic challenges.
Ah, like don't you see how that is very inequality? So instead of addressing the root causes of poverty, like this system that we are talking now normalizes reliance on reliance on individuals rather than like creating like changing the system as a whole. So financially stable relatives are people, not banks. So treating them as such will only mask larger societal issues like lack of government like government support or like job opportunities to people.
You're framing this as though the family structure is inherently flawed. It's not. Families are resilient, and their collective efforts are why many Filipinos succeed despite their systemic barriers. While boundaries can help, rejecting familiar obligations altogether erodes trust and alienates the individual from their cultural identity.
So what you say, like cultural identity is not an excuse for exploitation. In fact, like strengthening family ties that doesn't mean like you're tolerating their abuse to you. It means setting healthy like expectations for them and advocating for fairness. Like if you encourage financial dependence, that is like neither sustainable for both of you and also not ethical. So it only creates a cycle of like resentment towards your family.
Miles, do you know that resentment arises when the spirit of generosity is lost? Filipinos who embrace their cultural values find fulfillment in helping their family thrive. Perhaps the solution lies in finding the middle ground, like balancing personal needs with the family's welfare without framing every request as exploitation.
Well, I agree that balance is key, but it requires redefining cultural norms. Utang na loob should be about gratitude and mutual respect, not guilt or obligation. Families should be spaces of empowerment, not exploitation. It's time to shift the narratives towards fairness and personal well being. And I believe the essence of family in the Philippines will always rely on shared responsibilities. Well, reforms are necessary. Financial support in among relatives remains an expression of love and unity in the face of systematic challenges.
So unity, yes, but that not the expense of exploitation. So if we can balance those values, like we can finally like break free from the cycle of like financial dependence and like we can create more like equal future for all of us Filipinos.
You mentioned that breaking the cycle of financial independence, but let's not forget that family solidarity has historically been the backbone of Filipino survival. During colonial and post-colonial times, when institutional support was minimal or absent, families relied on each other. The family system evolved as a lifeline, not as a mechanism for exploitations. Well, disrupting this balance might leave vulnerable relatives without any safety net.
You know, I acknowledge that family solidarity is like our culture, our cultural strength, but that doesn't mean like we shouldn't question its like toxic manifestation. So so let's take an example. Like many breadwinners sacrifices personal growth, such as like they are delaying their marriage for their family to just put us to keep a food on the table. Also, like also they delay their investments and such because they are forced to prioritize the needs of their family, like or wants of their extended family. So these systems only like damages the individual's potential. So how can we celebrate this tradition when it limits our potential.
Well, traditions like this are not about stifling, but they're about a collective growth. You see it as limiting, but many see it as fulfilling. Filipinos often views personal success as a colonial success, a communal success. When a family member prospers, it's been an achievement for the whole family. Isn't it? Isn't that a powerful motivator?
I mean, it's a motivator for sure, but like at what cost? This proportionate burden often falls like to a single individual. So take OFWs again. Yes, they uplift families. They uplift their family from poverty, but they frequently do so at the expense of their own like mental health or relationship and also like their own future. Like studies on Filipino migrant workers show that expectation on constant remittances like contributes to like severe burnout of burnout and like their own financial instability. So, we can't ignore these consequences.
But those remittances fund education, healthcare, and even small businesses for families back home. Isn't that a worthwhile trade-off? Many OFWs return to their families living a better lives because of their sacrifices. That's the essence of familial love, going above and beyond for each other.
I mean, Kian, you are really romanticizing like sacrifice. So, love and duty does not mean exploitation. Many family members develop unhealthy like relationship where the OFW or the breadwinner is seen like an infinite or an endless uh, resource for them. So when they cannot meet the demands of their family, they are guilted, they are manipulated. So don't you think that's not? Do you think that's love? That's not love. It's manipulation.
Well, Miles, I won't deny that manipulation happens, but let's not talk about the flip side. So when a breadwinner helps their family, well, they often receives emotional and logical support in return. Like for example, many Filipinos rely on relatives for childcare, house management, or even managing small businesses. So it's a two-way street for us.
I mean, that is the ideal scenario, but in reality is often very one-sided. So for example, relatives misuse their like financial aid from their breadwinners, spending on like very non-essential like things, while the breadwinner like struggles to like even make ends meet. Instead of creating independence among the family, it just enables dependency. So we need to teach families how to use this opportunity wisely rather than like depend on their fi- financial reliance.
Hmm. Well, I do agree that accountability matters, but this problem isn't unique to families. It also reflects a broader lack of financial education across the Philippines. Addressing, addressing the issues requires systematic solutions, such as making a financial literacy a core object in schools. Well, hmm, it's unfair to blame the family structure for flaws in educational systems.
Uh, I mean, systematic ref- like reform is important, but the individual action is also plays a role for that. Family needs to redefine the concept of utang na loob to emphasize the just emphasize the gratitude and voluntary support rather than coercion. A breadwinner should help their family because they want to, not because they feel forced to. Otherwise, this system will continue creating resentment and guilt.
Hmm. But Miles, look at me. Redefining such deeply ingrained values isn't simple. Filipinos have always prided themselves on their sense of duty to their families. Well, the, this mindset has allowed them to thrive in challenging circumstances. Isn't it better to work within the system, like introducing gradual changes rather than dismantling this altogether?
I'm not advocating for dismantling Filipino values. I'm advocating for a healthier relationship. A family's strength it lies in mutual respect, not blind obligation. So the narrative must shift to like you owe us to we appreciate what you can give, but we still value you. We still value you regardless. That's how we preserve our cultural identity, like while creating caring for the individual well-being.
Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Perhaps we can agree that the solution lies somewhere in the middle. Families should continue to support each other, but with boundaries. Well, clear communication and financial education could bring the gap within the cultural expectation and modern realities. Well, after all, families are strongest when they balance tradition with progress. So,
I can agree with that. Boundaries and educations are the key to transforming, and education are the key to transforming the system. By creating independence and self-reliance, we honor the essence of bayanihan, and while ensuring that no one carries that burden. Tradition and progress don't have to be mutual exclusive. Well, they can evolve together,
hmm,
right?
well, I'm glad we found some common ground. Still, I think it's worth exploring how practical solution can be implemented without eroding the trust that binds families. Like, hmm, for example, what if breadwinners create structured ways to assist relatives, such as setting up family fund like that? This could help manage expectations and ensures the money is used for essential needs like like education or emergencies for the family.
Uh, a family fund is great just in theory, but Kian, but in reality, what it requires like very high level of transparency and cooperation among family members, which isn't very easy to achieve. In many cases, breadwinners often are still expected to contribute like disproportionately, like they contribute large amounts than their family. And problems arise over how the funds are being like put on or allocated. So to make this work, there would be like a clear rules and accountability like in place to perhaps we involve to a neutral third party, like a third party to mediate the funds.
So, well, that's true, Miles, but isn't it worth trying? Like a family fund encourage collective responsibility, right? So relatives who benefits from it might be motivated to contribute when they're financially able. Like so a fostering sense of teamwork rather than one-sided dependency. Plus, it helps shift the narrative from taking from one person to something building something together.
I can see the potential of your statement, but I still worry about the emotional toll of the breadwinners. So even with a structured system like you stated, like breadwinners might often feel obligated to contribute like more during crisis or when relatives like fail to meet their like share. So the pressure to be savior of the breadwinners doesn't really disappear very easily. Like especially when in the Philippines, where a culture that values family like above all else. So how do we ensure that the breadwinners doesn't feel that they are burdened by that fact?
Well, emotional tolls are, in inevitable in close-knit families. But I think that clear communication and setting expectations can mitigate that. Like for example, breadwinners could outline what they're willing and able to provide from the outset. Like explaining their own financial limitations might help relatives to understand that resources and unlimited. So it's about like fostering mutual understanding, not just giving blindly.
Wow. Well, I've been listening to both of you, and both of you bring valid points to on the table. So, however, I think that there's a middle ground that hasn't been fully explored yet. While financially exploitative relatives are undoubtedly a problem in the Philippines, specifically in the Philippines, the cultural and systematic factors at play make it like nouns issue. Let's talk about solutions that acknowledge these complexities without swinging too far in either directions, you know?
That's exactly what I've been advocating for, Angel. So like families, like Filipino families, are built on shared responsibilities, and helping relatives is an expression of love. And so the solidarity,
Solidarity.
like what's that term called? Like love and
Solidarity.
solidarity. Let's like sorry. Like So while abuse exists, they're not the norm. And painting familial support as exploitation risk undermining the fabrics of our culture. So
I respect your perspective, Kian, but you are you are oversimplifying the issue. The like the fabric of culture of Filipinos should not be excused for their toxic behavior. Angel, you're right about that. This is a complex problem. So, but it's critical to address the systematic imbalance between the breadwinners and where breadwinners are often feel overburdened by their families. So, what middle ground do you propose?
For starters, we need to separate genuine need from entitlement. Relatives asking for help during emergencies for essentials, right? Like medical bills or education, is vastly it's vastly different from those demanding money for non-essentials or personal luxuries. Breadwinners should feel empowered to say no to unreasonable stuff, like demands with a feeling like they're betraying their family, right?
well, okay. I can agree with that. So, but how do we ensure breadwinners can set those boundaries without alienating their family? Refusing requests, even unreasonable ones. They often leads to tension or guilt tripping. In a culture where family reputations and harmony are paramount, saying no is easier than done.
That's why I've been advocating for like redefining your the expectations. Family needs to have uh you know honest conversation about what's reasonable and sustainable. For example, a breadwinner could make a clear budget for the family, a clear outline for the budget for the family, and stick to it. So, Angel, what would that address to both emotional and practical sides of this issue?
Well, it's a good start, but I think it needs to go deeper. Breadwinners shouldn't just set boundaries. They should also involve the family in creating solutions. For instance, instead of relying solely on on one person in your family, families could brainstorm, right? Ways to increase what do you call this? Their collective income. These could include pooling resources to start a small businesses or sharing skills to um, improve their employability.
So, so, so Angel, that sounds promising, but it assumes family have the capacity to work together harmoniously. So, in reality, not every family is capable of this like level of cooperation. Breadwinners often take the lead because they're the only ones with the means or drive to uplift their relatives or families. So
I agree with you, Kian, and that's part of the problem. When one person is seen as, as a leader, as their sole provider of the family, it creates like very unhealthy relationship where others become complacent. Angel's suggestion about collective, problem solving is a way to shift the dynamic to ensure everyone contributes in some way, even not even if even if it's not financially.
Exactly. It's about recognizing support in many forms. Not everyone can provide money, but they might be able to offer breadwinner funds. I mean, like time, labor, or expertise. For example, if a breadwinner funds a sibling's education, the sibling can reciprocate by helping with household responsibilities or mentoring younger relatives. That could be helpful too. Like reciprocity doesn't have to be monetary.
Well, I see your point, Angel. So, but encouraging different forms of contribution can help elevate the pressure on breadwinners while maintaining the spirit of bayanihan. But however, I still think we need to be cautious about labeling family dynamics as ex, ex you know exploitative. Many families genuinely want to support each other, even if it seems imbalance at times.
But let's not downplay the fact that imbalance can turn into expectation if it left unchecked. So, Angel, what about the situations where a family member refused to change or like continue making unreasonable demands despite the efforts of setting the boundaries or involve them in the solutions.
Well, that's where it gets tricky. In those cases, the breadwinner has to prioritize their well-being, of course. If repeated conversations and compromises don't work, it's okay to step back. Boundaries are not just about protecting your finances. They're about also protecting protecting mental and emotional health. So it might be painful, but sometimes thought love is necessary to encourage change.
Um, I'm not against boundaries, but there's a risk of alienation. If a breadwinner steps back too far, it could damage relationship beyond repair. Family dynamics are delicate, even and every situation is unique. So how do we balance self care like with maintaining those bonds?
So that's where the key for it is like consistency. So breadwinners need to consistently communicate their limits and stick to them. Over time, the family members may learn to respect those boundaries. If they don't, then the responsibility for the strain on the relationship doesn't lie with the breadwinner. It lies with the relatives who refuse to accept it.
Well, I agree with you both. Like I'm totally agree with you both. The balance lies in being firm but compassionate rather. Breadwinners can explain that their goals isn't about to abandon their family but to empower them to be independent. Providing temporary support while encouraging long-term solutions can help bridge the gap.
So Angel, well, that sounds a fair compromise. If breadwinners can find ways to empower their relatives, like whether through education, skill training, or like starting a businesses, then familial support becomes less of a burden and more of a shared shared endeavor.
And I agree with that. So, it then shifts to the narrative from you owe us to like, let's work together. So, by fostering like independence and, mutual respect, families can like honor Filipino values without like, you know, going to the cycle of, financial exploitation.
Exactly. The goal isn't about to dismantle the family system or what do you call this, or its cultural value, but to involve them in a way that supports both individuals and the collective. With clear communication, shared responsibilities, and a focused long-term growth, Filipino families can maintain their strength without sacrificing fairness of or well-being.
Well, Angel, I think we've reached a point where we all agree that family solidarity is an invaluable part of Filipino culture, but it needs to adapt, like, to modern challenges. I I still do believes that helping family is an integral part of like our identity. While there are risks of abuses and manipulations, they shouldn't overshadow, the beauty of bayanihan and utang na loob, or debt of gratitude. So these values are what have helped, like Filipinos families thrive despite the adversities of this modern world.
You both raised important and compelling points, and I think this discussion has shown that the issue um, of financially exploitative relatives in the Philippines has context in neither black nor white. Let me just summarize the key takeaways for this. So, the value of family solidarity, as Kian emphasizes, family support is a cornerstone of Filipino culture, right? The value of bayanihan and utang na loob have historically helped families overcome systematic challenges and income, what do you call this, economic hardship. When applied with love and mutual respect, these values strengthen relationship, and uplift entire
Okay.
household. And second is the risk of exploitation. While Miles highlighted the darkest side of these cultural norms, the potential for manipulations and unreasonable demands, breadwinners often bear the brunt of familial expectations, leading to financial strain and emotional burnout. This is not sustainable and can damage relationship in the long run. And third is the need of boundaries and empowerment. We all agree that settling boundaries is essential. Breadwinners should feel empowered to say no to unreasonable demands, right? While still supporting their families in meaningful ways. That's the important part. So encouraging relatives to contribute through skills, labor, or other non-monetary means can foster a sense of shared responsibility. And the fourth one is that the long-term solutions, collective problem solving, such as creating family funds, um, investing in sustainable ventures, and providing financial education could address the um, root cause of dependency. And both Kian and Miles, both of them acknowledge the importance of empowering relatives to become self-reliant, shifting their narrative from dependency to collaboration. Financially, finally, the cultural evolution. So finally, we cherish here that Filipino family values that they must evolve to meet like modern realities. Tradition should inspire us to support each other, but it should not demand blind sacrifices though. Um, Respect, fairness, and communications are the key to maintaining strong family bonds without exploitation. In closing this issue isn't about choosing between tradition and progress. It's about blending them. Filipino families are resilient, right?
Yes.
And resourceful. We all agree about that. The Filipinos are resilient and resourceful in many ways. And by adapting to modern challenges while honoring cultural values, we can create future where everyone strives not just one or not just to survive also. So I guess we all talk fairness here. And thank you, Kian and Miles, for a thoughtful and enriching debate for this
So,
topic. And while me listening to it, I was like totally so amazed of you guys.
so thank you also for sharing and listening to my opinion. And so let's shake hands for peace.
Say God for peace. Yes, 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 yes. So for our viewers out there, if you like our topic today for this episode, you may like to push
Yeah.
the like button, subscribe if you wanted, and yeah, that's all for our episode. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Yay!